Well, it isn't just in London that shocking things have been happening, because a meeting up in Stoke on Trent at the weekend led to the most extraordinary scenes. And joining me is the Member of Parliament for Stoke-on-Trent North, Johnathan Gullis. Johnathan, just tell us very briefly what the event was and what happened.
Well, thank you, Nigel, for having me on. I mean, what happened was it was a fundraiser for our Police and Crime Commissioner, Ben Adams. We had a fundraising event at a local restaurant. A group of, or hate mob, let's be perfectly frank, Nigel, turned up to spew that they were obviously pro-Palestinian protesters. And what shocked me the most of all is CCTV footage showed a police officer appearing to stand by as 4 to 5 men walked past, up the stairs to the private venue room that we were hiring, shouting and screaming, intimidating and harassing people as young as an 11-year-old girl who was the daughter of one of our local councillors, that they were somehow part of a genocide, that they were murderers and child killers, which is completely abhorrent, completely unacceptable. And I'm pleased that it's now seen that at least 4 people as of today have been arrested, as confirmed earlier on the floor of the House by the policing minister. But this type of thing cannot go on. This intimidatory behaviour should not be allowed, and I certainly won't be coward. I think you know me well, Nigel. I certainly won't be standing back down to these type of morons who simply want to push their extremist ideology in our community. In fact, Nigel, one of the individuals who organised this as of 2015 was promoting that he was a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir, a now proscribed terrorist organisation. So by the police standing outside the door, imagine what could have potentially happened to those men, women and children inside that venue.
No, I mean, that is truly, truly shocking. But Johnathan, why are the police, whether it's in Westminster where nobody has been arrested from saying from the river to the sea, and why are the police in Stoke allowing people to go in and gatecrash a private dinner? What do we need to do with our police forces?
Well, first of all, Nigel, I think we're falling into this trap that somehow we've got to police by community consent, but that always means that the mob will always win, because the law-abiding residents and citizens who are doing the right thing, using a private venue in a private function room, somehow had to be cancelled because a few people outside were angry. For me, it's very simple. The police need to actually enforce the law rather than looking for excuses as to why they can't. That means telling people that they're disrupting the public, that obviously they're causing harassment and intimidation, and for those who have been completely irate, actually locking them up in the back of vans, so those who are yet to get to that level see exactly what it is that's going to happen, rather than, sadly as we see, take a knee to the extremist mob. The anti-Semitism that's awash in the streets of London and across our country is completely disgusting and abhorrent. And the fact that people are feeling emboldened, particularly after what the Speaker and Sir Keir Starmer cocked up last week, has led to scenes, as we've seen on your screens just now, that in places like Stoke-on-Trent, where you know, Nigel, people voted overwhelmingly to back you and others to take back control of our laws and our borders and expect firm policing to take place so the law-abiding majority can enjoy their lives.
No, absolutely. And final thought, Johnathan, if I may. Lee Anderson, Member of Parliament, not too far away from you in terms of geography, has had the whip removed. You know, his words may have been a little bit clumsy, but should he have had the whip removed?
Look, the Prime Minister, by Lee's own admission, was put in a very difficult situation, as was the Chief Whip, and so therefore I do back the Prime Minister and the Chief Whip in the decision that they're made. But I also hope that Lee can come back to the Conservative Party as soon as possible. I think he's a huge asset to our party, someone who's been a very strong voice on key issues over a period of time that I've been shoulder to shoulder with on, particularly both legal and illegal migration. And ultimately, I think is a strong voice for the Red Wall. And I see yourself, Nigel, and others in Reform tempting him to come over, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think we want him in the Conservative Party, and I hope that we can find a way forward. And I hope, look, at the end of the day, Lee can say sorry, as you say, for being clumsy with his language, but can still stand very firm in the fact that the Police Crime Commissioner of London, who is Sadiq Khan, has allowed TfL tube drivers to shout over the tannoy from the river to the sea. We've had bus drivers refusing to pick up Jewish students. That's all under his watch and under his leadership, and therefore he should be held accountable by the people.
Absolutely. Thank you for reinforcing the point I made earlier. Johnathan Gullis, thank you again for coming on GBNews. Well, maybe to get a slightly different perspective, thank you. I'm joined by Imam Sheikh Ramzy to maybe give us a different perspective on all of this. Welcome back on to the programme. I mean, let's face it, there were some pretty awful things happening last week, including the intimidation of elected members of Parliament. I mean, this is just not acceptable, is it?
You have a point, of course, but the important thing is at the moment how we can eradicate this Islamophobia and anti-Semitism is very important, because as of course Sadiq Khan says, you have to remember Mr. Anderson just pointed at the Sadiq Khan and he said, you are Islamists or Islamic people controlling you, and this may not be a right thing to say to the person is the mayor of the London, and he's trying to keep the London safe and keep the Londoners happy. It is very, very important we understand this. However, he says you put the petrol in a flame to get it higher. What we need to do, I think, of course, I believe if Mr. Anderson was saying apology, not to me, not to Muslims, only to Sadiq Khan, because he's pointed to Sadiq Khan, not to all Muslims. He did not say all Muslim are, for example, Muslim are terrorists. That means completely Islamophobia. But what he said is pointing to the Sadiq Khan, and Sadiq Khan should himself sort it out to come to the conclusion that it was a kind of element of, I believe the element of Islamophobia was in there. Some people say a lot. If he could choose his word instead of the Islamist, Muslim, all Muslim helping Christian, helping Jew, but when you bring Islamist word, that is got an element of Islamophobia, because people think, oh, what is the Islamist? Is that a kind of jihadist? And suddenly get fear of the Muslim. And if the people fear of each other, there is no integration, there is no cohesion, there is no understanding. Everything fall apart. Therefore, what we need to do, exactly the same. As I said before, the anti-Semitism and Islamophobia should go together.
No, I agree.
It is very important. Eradicate both.
Sheikh Ramzy,
God bless all.
I agree. I think what you've just said there is incredibly sensible. We should treat both of these things as seriously as each other. And thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
And I do hope Sadiq Khan listens. Thank you. I do hope that Sadiq Khan listens to what Sheikh Ramzy's just said, because, you know, he is literally, as Mayor of London, ignoring what's being said and done to the Jewish community, the intimidation of elected politicians, and pointing the finger at Lee Anderson. That is, at best, double standards.